You're listening to Cinematic Adventures, proud member of the Misfit Faction Media Network.
Good morning, Vietnam!
I love the smell of napalm in the morning.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
I feel the need for speed.
Roads? Where we're going, we don't need roads.
Snakes. Why did it have to be snakes?
Badges? We don't need no badges. I don't have to show you any stinking badges.
You make me want to be a better man.
Nobody puts baby in a corner.
I wish I knew how to quit you.
Love means never having to say you're sorry.
He's looking at you, kid.
I've always depended on the kindness of strangers.
All right, Mr. DeMille, I'm ready for my close-up.
Would you be shocked if I put on something more comfortable?
You know how to whistle, don't you, Steve? You just put your lips together and blow.
I'm not bad. I'm just drawn that way.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Cinematic Adventures. If you're listening to us on the go, you can catch us on Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, iHeartRadio. Oh, see, I got it right. And pretty much everywhere else you can get your podcast. One of these days, I'm actually going to list every single one, but you know what? Just not worth my time.
We'd be here till the next Ghostbusters sequel.
Oh, we would. That'd be great. Well, as always, I am one of your hosts. My name is Sean, and as always, I am here with my sidekick, Paul. Paul, how are you?
Man, I've been promoted to sidekick.
Yes.
I won't say what the generic term for Paul was for the podcasting, but it wasn't very nice.
What are you talking about? It's. I have nothing but nice things to say about you, Paul.
Well,
when you're next to me.
When people ask if you're a god, you say yes.
That is very true. Who are you going to call?
I don't know. Oh, Ghostbusters.
There. See? Well, you could have come up with something better than that.
Batman.
That's a good one.
Happy New Year, everyone.
Well, everybody, it is our second episode of the new year. I hope everyone had a very fun and healthy new year. Hope everyone stayed safe. And
hopefully you guys didn't ride the Statue of Liberty into the city of New York to battle a giant slime monster and evil painting.
Very good. I like that.
I will argue that Ghostbusters 2 is the premier New Year's movie.
Yeah. It's up there with Poseidon Adventure.
You know, it's funny when we were doing actual research for our last episode, because we dabbled in between, or not dabbled, that's a weird way to explain it. We went back and forth between doing something like a list of movies from the past year, movies that are coming up, or somebody actually, I think Brendan from our good friend Brendan from Blind Bat, the YouTube channel, he was like, are you going to do New Year's movies? And we were like, can't really think of any. And while we were all hanging out for New Year's, we actually looked up and it was like a list of like 15 movies.
Yeah, but again, are they movies where it's just New Year's happens to take place during the movie?
A lot of them were very Die Hard type situations where Die Hard can happen at any point. It just happened to be happening during Christmas.
Yeah, I mean, you know, that's like most Christmas movies. I mean, it's funny when you look back on it. You know, a lot of Christmas movies that we love and cherish today really aren't Christmas movies. No. They just take place during Christmas time.
I completely thought that the movie Jack Frost with Michael Keaton was a Christmas movie. No, it's just a really depressing movie. It is very
depressing, yeah. Well, I believe we discussed it on our last episode, so we're going to start off with some news. Obviously, not positive news, sad news, but we did mention, obviously, in the last episode that we lost Betty White on New Year's Eve, which just kind of put a damper on the night because
she sacrificed herself so that we could have a good 2022.
That's not coming off to not getting off to a great start. I mean, you know, just saying. But she was 17 days shy of her 100th birthday. But you know, in the last 2 days, we lost the great Peter Bogdanovich, fantastic director. And today we learned that we just lost Sidney Poitier. So very, very upsetting news to start off 2022. I don't know if anyone out there knows a lot about Peter Bogdanovich, late 60s, 70s, and beyond director, Last Picture Show, Paper Moon, What's Up, Doc. His first three films arguably are like some of the best three films a director can have in his first directorial efforts. And then obviously, what do you have to say about Sidney Poitier? I mean, you know, To Sir with Love, In the Heat of the Night, Lilies of the Field, Guess Who's Coming to Dinner. I mean, just one of the greatest actors of his time. First African-American to win Academy Award for Best Actor. So they will be sorely missed. Mm-hmm. So let's turn a little too positive, and we're going to get back to doing some contemporary movies. And it's been a while, but we're going to finally talk about Ghostbusters Afterlife. I'm really excited about this.
So let's do some backtracking on this. So we really struggled trying to get to the theaters to see this movie. It was very important for us to get to a theater and see this movie on a big screen. And we went to the nicest theater we possibly could.
We went to the Dolby.
To the Dolby with the recliner seats, and with the exception of the mom with her 14 kids next to us who had no control over any of them. It was such an amazing movie-going experience, but like we had a lot of trouble getting there. It was almost like right before Spider-Man came out.
Yes.
And we would not, it's not in theaters anymore for the most part. I'm sure like one or two small theaters might have it.
It's like down to one showing.
And also it came out today on digital, so you can actually watch the movie on digital. So if you guys have not seen Ghostbusters, like maybe you're just, you see our podcast and you want to know.
Live under a rock.
Well, let's be honest, we almost missed it in theaters.
That's fine.
Yeah, you being mean to people.
I am being mean to people.
But seriously, like it was such an important movie for us to go see, and we really wanted to do it right. And I'm glad we got to see it in the theater.
I'm so glad.
Because otherwise we would just be watching it on digital tonight.
Probably.
Yeah, because it is a movie that is well worth getting, and not without a little bit of controversy too, which we'll talk about, especially with the merchandising.
Merchandising? What's that?
It's how the movie gets made. Where the real money from the movie's made. But it was just initial thoughts. Sean, you want to?
Initial thoughts were it is the definition of a love letter to the fans. I mean, you couldn't ask for just the best treatment of the property, in my opinion, that you could have given it, without maybe missed a couple things, but for the most part, I mean, it fed everything you wanted. For me, at least. I'm not going to speak for you. You obviously say what you feel in a minute, but I walked out of that theater feeling I was just ecstatic. I loved every minute of it.
I really did enjoy it. Like, don't get me wrong, because I do have some qualms with it, and I do have some nitpicks.
It's very rare that you don't have qualms. Not you personally, but as a person.
It's hard to find movies. There are very few perfect fives.
Oh, absolutely.
I think we've only mentioned one or two.
Also, you've had time to think about it. We saw this movie over a month ago.
Yeah.
So,
And, like before this, we watched some videos on it. We read through the plot. We'll talk about the plot. We'll talk about the cast, things that we liked, things that we didn't like, and also maybe just talk about the Ghostbusters franchise as a whole. We did an episode on Ghostbusters.
We did. I think if anything, it was like our second or third episode of our podcast. The very famous starting off with the what's the Fallout Boys version of the
song. That was one of my favorite intros we ever did.
Just to piss me off.
So normally, like, I just edit in our intro as is, but I had a lot of fun.
You did have a lot of fun with that one.
I think that was one of our funnier ones.
That was a good one. Yeah, that was a good one. So I feel like the best way to start off this podcast is not.
Oh my God! It was episode 2.
It was 2. Okay, good.
Yeah,
I always remember number
episode.
1 was our spoof. We did the spoof movies. Hot Shots.
And Indiana Jones. Wow, we started off strong.
We did.
I'm looking through the list, and I'm also like, man, I really put in a lot of effort on these titles at first.
You just gave up. I loved it. It was great.
Well, I finally stopped putting Cinematic Adventures episode number and then the episode because it was just way too long and people didn't know what the episode was about.
Oh, I loved it. Yeah, you really were like, I remember recording the episode and you were like, oh, what's a good title? And I'm like, I don't know. Like,
we can quote almost every movie we've ever done incessantly, but God forbid we take one line to make a title.
But that was great. I don't remember when you kind of gave up, but it just turned out to be like.
I'll tell you exactly when I gave up. Hold on. All right. So this is happening live. I'm not actually going to. So let's see. Pretty much, you start to see it around episode 16 where I just wrote Jumanji. But then episode 17, when we did Speed, it says Pop Quiz Hot Shot.
Okay. So you had a little break.
Around Who Framed Roger Rabbit is where it really starts to. But let's see. Yep, that's where it. Oh, Men in Tights, Tight Tights, episode 27. Yeah, so that's when it starts.
So certain ones you were like, okay, I still got to stick with this, but then it got to the point where it's like, all right.
Well, I will still put on the record that for some reason our Meet the Flintstones episode was one of our most downloaded episodes.
That still blows me away.
We're still not really sure how that happens.
Still blows me away. I just I have nothing to say to that. I'm shocked. Because
I can't.
Don't get me wrong, I loved that movie. I'm just surprised that particular episode got a lot of views. I really am. But so I guess the best way to start this is to really quickly rehash, I don't want to, is disaster the right word? I feel that's too harsh of the 2016 reboot, I guess we'll call it.
Well, I was going to talk about the reboot at the end, but we can talk about it now.
Just real quick. I don't want to go too crazy into it.
Well, first and foremost, if you guys want to hear some of the fresher thoughts on it, like when it first came out, we did an episode on it for Multiverse Fancast. I don't think you were on it, Sean, because you never saw it.
No, I saw it. I've seen it.
You've seen it.
I've seen it, but I did not see it in theaters now.
The reboot is a whole incredible story of just toxic fandoms and just not knowing exactly what to do with a great source material, and in some ways paying homage to it, other ways,
and a very talented cast. I mean, and I know this has been said before. I just felt you couldn't figure out who was the
comedic,
who was the straight. You were trying to compare each one to different characters, and Melissa McCarthy, Kristen Wiig, they were trying to both be Venkman with a hint of Ray, and then obviously Kate McKinnon was like Egon, but she still had some Venkman type humor to her. And then what's her name, Leslie Jones?
She was just loud.
She was just kind of like,
she was supposed to be the straight man in this whole group.
But she's never the straight man.
Yeah. So that's the problem with that movie, and we've said it more than once. They didn't know who was supposed to do what, and unfortunately, also if you're going to bring back the original cast and then recast them in this movie, like why?
Yeah, that was another thing. I mean, the act, Dan Aykroyd, Bill Murray, they respected what they did by appearing in the movie. I mean, to me, that's a sign of respect. We get what you're doing. We think this is good.
Especially Bill Murray, who has been notoriously difficult trying to get back to anything Ghostbusters.
I mean, that harkens back to Ghostbusters 2. He's still bummed on that movie because it's not what they intended to shoot. Yada yada yada. We won't get into that. So again, Ghostbusters comes out, and you can honestly say it does not do well. I mean, it made money, but compared to what everyone expected it to do. So 2 years later, we start to hear rumblings that they're going to do another Ghostbusters movie, and we're all kind of like, all right, I mean, let's see what the plot's going to be. And then we hear Jason Reitman is going to direct and write it. And I'm going to speak for myself. I was like, you got me. All right. Ivan Reitman's son.
Who's Ivan Reitman?
Oh, God. Who is he? Really good director of comedy. And he's the original director of Ghostbusters and Ghostbusters 2.
What?
And Stripes. Yeah, and Meatballs.
I love it.
So that, to me, was the beginning of like, okay, I'm sold. I will believe whatever you give me. Let's go. I don't know. What about you?
I was cautiously optimistic. We live in the era of nostalgia. Sometimes it works out really well. I've talked about it more than once. I love Cobra Kai. Yeah. Cobra Kai is a perfect example of what Ghostbusters Afterlife also did, for the most part, succeed in, right? Capturing that nostalgia, telling it from another perspective, honoring the characters, honoring the source material, but also doing their own thing, and introducing characters that were, for the most part, engaging characters. Yeah. Not every character in this movie lands well, right? And I'm going to say it. I did not like Finn Wolfhard in this. Hollywood's really pushing Finn Wolfhard into these kind of projects because of Stranger Things. And, don't get me wrong, I like him in Stranger Things until, season 3. But
I liked him in all 3 seasons.
He was just so annoying in the last season.
Well, it's just, again, it's the script that they gave him. I mean, we'll see. I'm waiting. I'm really intrigued to see where this season goes for that show.
Yeah. And then, obviously he did well in it, but...
he was excellent in that. Yeah. He really was.
There is this big push of 80s nostalgia, and it feels like whenever I hear 80s nostalgia, there's Finn Wolfhard.
I mean, I get what you're saying, and I agree with you that I remember when they cast Finn Wolfhard, I was like, okay, he's going to be the star of the movie.
But then they cast Paul Rudd. And you're like, he's going to be the star of the movie.
That was the thing.
And don't get me wrong, Paul Rudd does, and we'll talk about it when we get to the cast, he does steal every scene he's in.
Yes.
But
the star of the movie is Mckenna Grace. Let's just say it right now.
Phoebe, yeah, and we'll talk about the cast. We'll go cast by cast. But so there's always the question of, when they wanted to do a Ghostbusters, there was the original idea that they wanted to have the old team mentoring a new team.
Yes. I remember back in 10, 15 years ago, we'd be like...
Dreamcasting.
I'd be like, oh, well, Paul Rudd's got to be Venkman. I mean, that's obvious.
Yeah, we did
Seth Rogen as Ray, who's going to play Egon.
Well, that was when they wanted to do an actual reboot before they announced the female-led one. Which
we always thought Paul Rudd could be the son of Sigourney Weaver and Peter Venkman.
Paul Rudd was always in our mind for the role. Yeah, and he nailed it.
He's got that humor about him that would just perfectly. You could see him wearing a Ghostbusters costume.
Oh, 1,000%.
And he would sell it. Like, it would be awesome.
But do you want to take a quick break and then we'll?
Yeah.
We're already getting super excited.
We are getting super excited. All right, so we're going to take a quick break and then we'll get back with the cast of Ghostbusters Afterlife. We'll be right back.
Hey guys, today's episode is brought to you by Raise Energy Drinks. Raise is a proud member of Rep Sports, and if you guys are looking for a little extra kick during your day, whether you need to tackle a workout or you need to get over that afternoon slump, you can always check out Raise Energy, and if you get to checkout and you enter the code CINEMATIC, not only will you be getting a 15% discount, but you'll also be supporting the network. So that's Raise Energy with Rep Sports. Code is CINEMATIC, CINEMATIC.
And we're back, so we're going to jump right into the cast of this movie, and I guess we'll go in credit order. So, and I'm going by Wikipedia here. So the first name listed on the credits is Carrie Coon, who plays Callie Spangler, and she is the daughter of Egon Spangler and the mother of our two child leads, Trevor and Phoebe.
All right, so you know what? I'm going to say it right off the bat. That means Egon got laid.
Oh well, yeah.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you do Egon?
But that is the wow. That escalated so quickly. No, because
Aren't you interested in his epididymis?
He took away that child's puppy. Solid callback. Solid callback.
Oh, it was good.
People always think about Peter and the shock treatment one, but really, I always think that like Egon was doing human trials on stress and human emotion.
They think they're here for marriage counseling. We've just been gradually increasing the temperature. By the way, you have a little Egon hair going. By the way, just saying, you can pull that off.
I wish I could. In all honesty,
you could if you tried.
I don't want to, but Carrie Coon, she did a great job with what she had.
Yeah, very good actress, by the way.
There's a point in this movie that I want to make. Everybody really adjusts very quickly to the strangeness that's happening around them.
Yes.
Right. So one single gripe about this movie is that. They established that this is all in the Ghostbusters universe. Like the Ghostbusters reboot took place in its own universe. Mm-hmm. It's not part of this. Like they don't even mention ghosts aren't real in that.
Yeah.
In this established universe, they really hone in on the fact that the Ghostbusters were national heroes at one point. Like the world knew who they were. They were on the cover of Time magazine. You know, they even mentioned the Statue of Liberty stuff. Like the Ghostbusters.
Did you mention the Statue of Liberty? I don't remember that.
I don't remember either. Then I was just guessing.
Fun fact, I'll get into that a little later. I want to discuss something with you regarding that.
Okay. But they do mention that the Ghostbusters were well known. Like Paul Rudd's like, come on, you don't know the Ghostbusters? I feel like if a giant marshmallow man that is actually a god personified after a ghost explosion rocked a New York City building, and the Ghostbusters were famous celebrities for 6-7 months beforehand in a great montage by Ray Parker Jr.'s iconic song, that people would still remember it 30 years later.
Fair enough, but being that this takes place in the middle of the country, maybe just
I don't know,
maybe they're just kind of just not really connected to that.
Because Phoebe and then eventually Callie Spangler, they're very oh, okay, ghosts are real.
Yes.
And it doesn't if right now, regardless of your religious faith, whatever, whatever you guys believe in, if I was sitting here talking to Sean and suddenly my water bottle levitated off the ground and oh my God, producer Melanie walked down at the wrong time, it scared the crap out of me. But anyway, hi, producer Melanie. Yep. So if my water bottle literally just levitated and flew off to the side, I would not be like, oh, okay. Yeah, I'm not editing that out. It scared the crap out of me. I really
Why would you edit it out? That was a great
all
moment.
The time for me to be out of just the corner of my eye.
Did you see it floating? Just something, I was like, what?
See, it would have been legendary if she heard what I was talking about and she actively tried to. Now she's throwing cat toys at me. Yeah.
Well, because the cat's gonna come down now and
No, he's not allowed down here during podcast times. But I think if they had said at some point in the movie, hey, is known that ghosts are real. They just haven't been seen, since this time. But they also really try and like downplay, like they don't tell her like her last name for the entire movie. They never mention it or anything like that.
So the way they started off is you believe that Egon truly did leave, his daughter, and she has no clue why. You realize near the end of the movie that she does know why he left, and because that great scene between her and Phoebe, where Phoebe's like, "Why didn't you tell me my grandfather was a Ghostbuster?" and all that, and then she's like, "Your grandfather was an a-hole. This is why." Basically, through the whole movie, it's all about how Egon, or again, Grandpa left.
The crazy grandpa.
The
dirt farmer.
The dirt farmer. I like that, the dirt farmer. He just left, and, no word of where he went, what happened to him. He just left his family and all that. And, again, when did he have a family? This is stuff that I'm still curious about.
And who is the mother?
Yeah, that too. Because it's not Janine.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like it's Janine.
It's not Janine, because you think there would have been a more bigger, "Oh, hey, I know you."
Hi, Mom.
Seriously.
Yeah.
But again, I mean, for the character as it's written, I thought she did a good job. You definitely gauge the emotional, hurt that she has for what happened to her as a kid. She's definitely struggling. The opening scene of her is she's getting evicted. Her and her 2 kids are getting evicted. So definitely she's struggling. I don't know if you gauged, I kind of felt a little bit of an alcoholism feel to her.
She was a very well-rounded character in that regard.
Yeah.
Where you felt
she looked like she was struggling in certain scenes there. Like, she definitely could tell she was.
But she was trying her best.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I had no issues with the character, Callie. And again, I think Carrie Coon is a very, very good actress.
And I love her at the end. Where she gets. By the way, full spoilers for this movie.
Full spoiler?
Full spoilers. Full spoilers ahead.
Full spoilers.
Full spoilers.
All right, I think everybody knows now. Full spoiler.
Back scratcher. But anyway, so she does get possessed. Very reminiscent of the original movie, where you need the gatekeeper and the keymaster. Man, it's so funny now. Like, as an adult, you're like, "Oh, I get it." And then you watch like the original movie. I remember
the first time I got it as a kid, and I was like, "Aha!"
You know what I did really like? They showed her transform into that dress.
That was cool.
That was, not only was it cool because it was just a fun visual, but like it explained it.
Yeah.
Why Dana Barrett was wearing it.
And it also was funny how both him and Lewis just were in their
normal clothes. You don't need to wear something. You don't have to wear something nice for that if you're the guy.
You look spiffy. You just get it. Get it when you can get it.
You see his beard? He
already
already looks bearded.
So we got the man who you're not a big fan of, Finn Wolfhard, plays Trevor Spangler.
The movie would be no different if he really wasn't in it.
That's
with
fair.
The exception of the Ecto one.
That's fair. I mean, I'm not saying Finn Wolfhard is our next great American actor, but is what he is. Now, is it his fault that this is the type of movies he's going to be put into because of Stranger Things? But he's so good, as in all the kids are very good in that show. I mean, no offense. Look at what's her name, Millie Bobby Brown. She's not doing much. She's freaking Godzilla and Kong vs. Godzilla, but
Godzilla versus Kong.
I can never remember.
You never can remember it.
I never can remember.
You have a 50-50 shot and you lose every time.
I do. 50-50 point of the time, 75% all the time. What's the,
60% of the time it works every time.
So, but again, Finn, for the character he plays, he's fine. I mean, he's not breaking any boundaries here. He's not doing anything amazing, but hey, it is what it is.
Him and Phoebe over the course of the movie, they're never like those typical siblings that just hate each other and they're constantly fighting. Then they come together at the end. They have a very nice, I don't want to say like civil relationship, but that's because of Phoebe. That's just the way her character is. And we're going to talk about her. She's up next, right?
She is. Mckenna Grace as Phoebe Spangler.
Steals the movie.
Absolutely.
Between her and Paul Rudd, she's such a great character. She's so much like Egon in all the right ways.
She literally just everything about Egon is in her. I mean, like you see it the first minute you see her in the movie. She's like rewiring their apartment.
I also like
and the hair.
I also like how in a lot more modern movies they try and be a little bit more I guess woke is the term, where like, oh, I think she has special needs, and there's nothing wrong with that if you want to create a really strong character that, you know, that's on the autistic spectrum, that has special needs, or whatever. But I like how they just go back to the very 80s line of, she's just a little quirky.
Yeah.
You know, that's how every like starring movie role kid in the 80s, they were just a little quirky. Right? You look at the Goonies. The Goonies had the one quirky kid in it, which was Data, you know? Like, that was a trope, like the one weird or unusual kid. And
God,
so...
I love that movie.
What, the Goonies?
Oh, I love the Goonies.
Oh, the Goonies is great. I can't wait for the reboot.
No. That's a movie you don't touch.
They're going to touch it. They're going to touch it all over. They're going to touch the Goonies. You know they're going to eventually touch the Goonies.
Point to me on this doll where the Goonies touched you. No, I don't want that.
Hey, you guys.
Don't want that.
Yeah, they're going to make Sloth way more culturally appropriate. Yeah, not just a vicious victim of, like, what, incest?
I don't know.
They never say.
They never say, but we're not going to get into that.
Maybe I'm just thinking of Harold and Kumar.
Maybe.
Yeah. But anyway, so going back to Mckenna Grace, she, like, just really nails the role, and she is child actors can go one way or the other. They're either completely engaging and really good and just really capture what they're trying to do, or they're not. There are plenty of movies where the child actor or actresses, like, just no, just go home.
I'm sorry.
Have your mom pick you up.
You got me. I'm good. That was good.
Thank you.
It's like either they're great or they're not.
That's like the basketball line that always gets us. Or he misses. Yeah, there it is. But yeah, I really enjoyed her, and the ending scene is fantastic with her. And
again, when you first heard the cast. You know, the rumblings of the cast being coming out, and I don't honestly, I don't follow her as much. I don't know much about her as an actress. I mean, she's I think only 12, 13, 14 years old, in that range.
She is 15.
She's 15.
Wow, she looks so much younger in this movie.
Well, also I think the movie was shot like 3 years ago. So
she was in Independence Day Resurgence. She was in Amityville: The Awakening.
I don't remember that.
I, Tanya, she had like a small...
Oh, that's right. She's the young Tanya Harding.
Yep. Ready Player One. Captain Marvel, she was young Carol Danvers.
Who is she in Ready Player One?
Elementary school kid.
Oh.
Yeah. She plays a young Daphne in Scoob, which I heard was actually really good. And then really that's like the biggest ones. And then a lot of TV.
But when you first heard Finn Wolfhard was cast in this movie, you immediately...
It makes sense.
You immediately thought, okay, he is going to be the main...
Yeah.
Character. Again, this is before the plot really started to, come out, the trailers and stuff like that. It really wasn't until after the first release date got delayed and I started noticing McKenna Grace in the trailer and kind of coming to realize well, no, she's a big character in this too.
And then it turns out she's
the character. Alrighty. Next, we have the man, the myth, the legend, and that is Paul Rudd.
2021 sexiest man alive.
That's very true.
Yeah.
Very true. And he plays Gary Gruberson. I love that name. That's great. I love that.
Paul Rudd is also just that guy that I would love to get a beer with.
Oh, absolutely.
Like when people ask who would be our ideal podcast interviewer, or interview on MF Uncensored, Paul Rudd jumps to mind. I would love to talk to Paul Rudd and just be like, tell me about Clueless.
This guy's been around for 30 plus years.
And he hasn't aged.
No, he hasn't.
He's only gotten better. He's like a fine wine.
I'm not a wine drinker, but I get what you're saying.
He's like an alcohol that gets better. Did that work for you? I don't know. Sean's like, I like Guinness, and you don't leave it out.
I don't care for Guinness anymore.
I know. We kind of burned yourselves out on that one.
I did.
Yeah. Those are the days. Oh, post-traumatic stress. Vietnam War flashback. But anyway, and he plays, like Sean said, Gary Gruberson, and he's the summer school teacher, and he's really just there because he's, his scientific expertise is seismology, the study of earthquakes, and he has noticed that in town, this area, there are earthquakes happening, but there's no tectonic plates.
No. And it's funny, again, how for years we've been, Paul Rudd has got to be Venkman. He's got to be the Venkman of the movie, and he turns out to be the Rick Moranis of the movie.
Which is great.
Which, I mean, I'm watching this movie, and I'm just like, wow, they really Rick Moranis'd him. I'm okay with it.
In all the right ways. He's a very big exposition dump because
he's the one that remembers the ghost. He's the first one to mention the Ghostbusters in what happened back in the 80s, because obviously you're not going to get any of that from the mother.
Yeah, and they pulled some YouTube clips, stuff like that, and it's a great scene when what's really cool about him, like we talked about how characters just kind of roll with things. He immediately rolls with Phoebe just walking in there because he's already like
he's checked out on the summer
checked
school.
out. He's showing them like Cujo. But
and I just love that he goes, "Hey, you know, there's a great movie about a killer dog in there," and she just starts saying things, and he's just like, "Oh, okay,
a kid that knows what they're talking about."
Yes,
like, he respects the scientific prowess, and like when they do the experiment with the trap is a lot of fun.
Yes,
the little Stay Puft Marshmallow Man, the most awkward date in history. Like Paul Rudd has some great stuff in this, and if they do another movie, I'd be very curious to see who they'd bring back. It kind of he reminds me of Jason Segel in the Muppets movie.
Okay,
you can definitely see that he's just there because he just wanted to be part of it.
He's having so much fun, and this is like a dream project for him.
Yeah,
you could definitely say that. I agree with you there. All right, next we have
my favorite character,
Logan Kim as Podcast.
Oh my God, yes,
this character was. Again, and I'm trying to like kind of compare them to the original characters in a way because that's just what I like to do. He's Louis, Ray, kind of combined for me. Like he just had that humor about him.
He's got that humor. He's got that enthusiasm.
He's got the enthusiasm of Ray. He's got the nerdiness of Louis, and it just melded into this. Honestly, this great character. I thought, and the perfect. I guess you could call him sidekick to Phoebe. The two of them just worked so well off each other with her deadpan and his just over.
And I like how in a lot of other movies and TV shows, like she would almost be antagonistic to somebody with that personality. Like that was the easy trope. Like I'm the stern and serious one, but I don't. And they're like, I'm going to break through that exterior.
Yeah.
But like that, he's just a lot of fun in this movie, and they're great partners. And I like how It's always weird when you do like the boy and girl combo, and then they try and like throw in like the attraction angle.
Yeah,
I'm like, thank God they didn't do that. They didn't touch it. Like
No.
it was so perfect, the two of them together.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he has a podcast, so respect. Literally, when he said his name was Podcast, and it was because he had a podcast, I'm pretty sure everybody in our party all looked at me.
Probably,
especially producer Melanie. She was like, whoo. Yeah, she's famous for her looks.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
It's like a new sound effect now. You just got to put that in there.
One day we'll get a soundboard, and I will actually just be able to press a button, and it'll go.
Looking forward to that. All right, next we have Celeste O'Connor as Lucky Domingo. She is a high school student who
She's in the movie.
She is in the movie. She plays Trevor's coworker and love interest. I mean...
She helps.
She's got that...
her dad's the local sheriff.
Her dad's their local sheriff. You find out later in the movie. They immediately, obviously make her the love interest of Trevor. He love at first sight. He gets a job at the burger shop just to be near her.
It's cute.
He lies about his age because she's obviously a little older. But they have some good moments together. She's, again, nothing great about her character, but nothing too bad either.
Yeah,
I mean, as you said, she's in the movie.
She does plenty during the actual climax of the movie.
They really did utilize her, I thought, in that. I love that scene at the end where she, kicks through the door and she has her moment there. And then
that was fun. And then she gets
and then she gets possessed.
Yep. There's some really cool stuff in this movie, and like every character does have something to do. As much as I like to bust balls about Finn Wolfhard.
All right, that's pretty much the main cast. So now we're going to get into.
Wait.
Well, who am I missing?
You missed Josh Gad plays.
I was going to talk about like cameos / like special appearances.
Okay,
sorry.
You're the host.
No, I didn't specify.
I got
but,
excited. I thought you were literally.
You also cut me off there a little quickly, but all right.
I thought you were jumping to the big names.
No. Okay, so we got some quick little cameos here. As you just said, Josh Gad is the voice of Muncher. Now, Muncher is the Slimer of this movie.
Do you think it would have been better if they had just done Slimer, or do you think it's better that they made up their own?
I would hope to see Slimer in the sequel if they do make one. I'm okay with that. They did enough to honor the original. I think Slimer would have been. Listen, if you saw Slimer in the theater, would have gone nuts. Don't get me wrong. I love the character. I would have been interested to see how they did the character. Would they do the character kind of like the original movie, or would they have done it like the cartoon?
Or Ghostbusters 2, where he was much bigger.
Much bigger, but he was very similar to the cartoon.
Yeah, so for those of you guys who aren't really sure what we're talking about, Ghostbusters, in the original Ghostbusters, Slimer's more of he's just in the movie. He's the first ghost that they catch.
Yeah.
They decided for the cartoon series, The Real Ghostbusters, to make him the recurring like mascot almost.
Pretty much.
And then he stole the show. People love Slimer.
Oh, absolutely.
They renamed the show Slimer and the
Ghostbusters. And then by the time they did Ghostbusters 2, Slimer was such a big character, they put Slimer back in the movie and they gave him a little more of a character.
It sounds like he was more like reshoots, like
probably
because he's only in scenes with Rick Moranis.
That's very true.
He does not interact, and which is weird considering him and Peter Venkman in the cartoon series have their like.
I bet you 10-1 Bill Murray wanted nothing to do with that.
Of course, and like
nothing to do with that.
And we're going to talk about Bill Murray not wanting to do anything.
He did do this though. Give him credit. He did do this.
Talk about it.
He did do this. All right. Next we have J.K. Simmons plays Evo Shandor. Now this is a cameo again. You don't see till basically the last third of the movie. And I'll be honest, I was shocked. I was like, I had no idea he was in this movie. It was a 5-second cameo.
It was almost as long. It was a little bit longer than his Spider-Man Far From Home cameo.
That's very true.
Yeah.
And we'll get into Evo Shandor in the plot real quick. And then we have Olivia Wilde is Gozer the Gozerian. And she's uncredited, so you really have to like go, is that Olivia Wilde? And then look it up on the internet because, you would never know from the credits. It would have been even better
if they had Paul Rubens do it. Come on, deep cut. This is a deep cut, really? Paul Rubens was originally Gozer.
I forgot about that.
Gozer was supposed to appear as Paul Rubens in like a suit, and he was supposed to be like take on the form of Evo Shandor. That would have been legendary.
That would have been cool.
I don't think people would have gotten it though.
No. But
unless they listen to our podcast.
That's very true.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm gonna start calling you podcast. I think it would work.
I think it would work.
It would work.
Yeah, I have a lot of nicknames at this point.
Alrighty, now we're getting into the big guns here. So we have the special appearances, and basically it is pretty much the entire original cast of Ghostbusters minus Rick Moranis. Sadly, he did not make an appearance in this movie, which was I kind of bummed by, especially that he kind of did that commercial. I thought maybe he was getting back into the entertainment field, and I thought maybe he'd be involved in this, but he was not.
It would have been nice if at the beginning scene with Janine that he was involved too.
That would have been cool. So we have obviously. Do you want to do an appearance of them, like in the appearance that they make in the movie?
Yeah. So
Annie Potts would be number one as Janine Melnitz,
and she's basically giving them the house.
Yes, she meets them at the house, and she's pretty much been in charge of the house all this time, and I guess you get a sense that maybe her and Egon had been together in that house. I don't know.
It's weird.
Like because they have that scene at the end where they flash back to a scene I'd never seen before. It must have been a deleted scene from the original movie where she gives him a coin from like the '64 World's Fair, and it was just a nice little moment between the two of them. Because again, that's a relationship that went nowhere.
Yeah.
Because they obviously her and Lewis in the sequel,
and that red wig.
They made her look like the cartoon.
Yeah.
That was why. So you get, and honestly, you didn't get a lot of uproar when she showed up on, I don't know if a lot of people realized who she was, because again, I think everybody's minds are set to the way she looked in Ghostbusters 2.
Yeah.
She looked a lot more obviously like the aged version of Ghostbusters 1.
I've been watching a lot of young Sheldon. She's in it.
Oh, that's right. She's the grandmother.
Yeah.
Mima?
Yeah.
All right. So then we get Dan Aykroyd, who makes the first appearance of the original.
I would argue has the biggest role up until Winston.
Fair.
Right? So we find out that Ray's the exposition phone call.
Yes.
Like
which is perfect for Ray. If
anybody's
if I can listen to Dan Aykroyd speak, please, I'll listen. Man just has one of those voices. He can recite the phone book. I'm good.
He is apparently, though, a very big conspiracy theorist in real life. He loves good conspiracy theories. But so he's running still, Ray's Cults.
Yes.
And that was in the trailer, and I remember seeing it and getting excited.
I love the tattoo Revelations. He has the tattoo of the famous little scene him and Winston have in the first movie. I love that.
So Ray's been working at his occult bookstore that they introduced in Ghostbusters 2. Hasn't sold a book yet. But which is funny because in Ghostbusters 2, he seems fairly successful. And again, if you are in any sort of like paranormal field where you service like with paranormal merchandise, you would think in a world where paranormal was real.
You would think.
But I think I'm reading way too into it. But anyway.
That's what we do.
That is what we do.
God.
But he's like the first one to be like, no, Egon is the worst. Egon Spangler can rot in hell.
Yeah, it was a great scene. I loved it.
But you see at the end, after he's off the phone with her, he's thinking about it. Because basically we find out, and this is a little bit of the plot stuff, that Egon knew that something was going to happen. Like, he knew that there was going to be this big ghost paranormal event, and the other Ghostbusters didn't believe him. And he was like, well, screw you guys. I'm going to save the world. But he just didn't articulate that properly.
No.
So...
yeah. So now we got Bill Murray as Dr. Peter Venkman, and it's Bill Murray. I mean, I can't describe it. The man's just funny. He just rolls out of bed and he's funny.
It was so hard seeing them. They're so old.
Oh, they are. I mean, they are. I mean,
Winston looks pretty good.
Ernie Hudson does look pretty good. I will give him that. The man's almost 80 years old.
Yeah.
I mean, and he doesn't look it.
We met him.
We did. Icon.
$70 for that autograph that I can't find.
It's probably with your Spider-Man 3 tickets.
Easy. No, we did get to meet Ernie Hudson at a convention, and he told us
he has some good backstories. I love the whole because he actually auditioned for the voice of Winston on the show,
and they said he didn't sound enough like Winston.
And he's like, I am Winston.
That's like when Charlie Chaplin entered Charlie Chaplin lookalike contest and came in third.
Yep.
But he also told us stories about how and we mentioned it in our actual Ghostbusters episode.
And when we saw him, it was prior to the game, I believe, right?
Yes. So he did tell us that originally Winston was supposed to have a much bigger role, supposed to be like an
it was Eddie
Navy
Murphy.
SEAL.
It was supposed to be Eddie Murphy.
Yeah. And then they
and that's
changed
the script. That's the script he signed on for. And then by the time they started filming, he's like, I don't appear till almost an hour into this freaking movie.
Yeah, which sucks because
he gets a much bigger role in the sequel,
and which is even funnier because in the sequel he's not in the first third of the movie.
That's true.
He just has 2 cameos.
That's still my biggest gripe. He's in the courthouse. He was in the courthouse. So you're telling me Winston left his buddies?
Winston put on a suit and tie to go heckle his friends.
To go heckle his friends and walks out before the judge has the sentence, and then they start and where is he?
All right, for the record,
it always bothered me.
In real life, most court it's like a series of court events.
I get it.
I know.
I get it. But you would think
you're just reading too much into it.
But that's what we do here.
That's what we do.
All right. Lastly, we have Sigourney Weaver.
Well, we didn't mention that Ernie Hudson Zedmore is a multi-billionaire.
That's right. He started a company by himself with one other person. He really doesn't get too much into what
we don't even know what
it
does, really.
No, and he just became hugely successful.
And he owns Ray's bookstore.
He does. You find that out in the ending credit scene that he has been paying the rent on Ray's bookstore. You find out that Peter Venkman went back to academia and is professor of advertising, which to me, I thought that was perfect. Great. That was great.
So they also show the trick cards, and apparently they were all marked the entire time.
That was a fun callback with Sigourney Weaver and Bill Murray redoing the little shock scene from the beginning of the first movie.
Shocks were real, apparently.
He showed it.
Do you think they're married?
I would hope so.
I think so, too.
I would hope so.
I think they're married. Too bad Oscar didn't make an appearance.
Yeah, I'm going to get into this now.
Oh, boy.
I believe, and you can again, you want to fight me on the Raise a Cult books, but the way this movie pans out to me is if Ghostbusters 2 didn't happen.
To a point, I think there's a lot
minus the Raise a Cult book appearance, because obviously you don't see that in the original movie. He opened that up after the first movie, but there's no mention of Vigo or another incident happening in 1989 or anything like that. Again, maybe I'm reading too much into this.
Well, also, we did only see it once and in theaters a month ago.
Fair enough.
This movie's definitely worth a second viewing.
Oh, I'm going to buy it.
Oh, yeah, when it comes out on actual hard copy.
Oh, yeah. I don't buy DVDs a lot anymore, but there's certain movies where you gotta buy them.
Yeah, I don't know how much they actually mention the sequel, but because it's no secret that they were not too happy with Ghostbusters 2 for the most part.
Bill Murray was not too happy. I think if you ask Dan Aykroyd, I mean he's fine with Ghostbusters 2.
Dan Aykroyd has also been very vocal about how much he wanted to come back to the franchise. It was his baby.
Oh, he's the original writer and stuff, and then obviously Harold Ramis really kind of took it and made it into the whole starting a business and all that stuff. That's Harold Ramis.
Because originally the Ghostbusters were supposed to be like franchises all over.
Yeah, and more like firemen, police officers. They were supposed to be like,
first
responders for Ghosts. I mean, it was a big thing.
And they get to actually play with that idea in the Ghostbusters video game. Now, since we're here, the Ghostbusters video game came out a few years ago. I think Xbox 360 and PlayStation.
More than a few years ago. That was like a decade ago.
PlayStation 3,
it's been
I think.
That long.
And it was such a big thing because they got the entire cast back. Like all 4 Ghostbusters, I think a couple of cameos from the others.
Even what's his name? William Atherton, the EPA lawyer.
Yep.
He was back.
So what's really cool about it is like the Ghostbusters video game was basically their failed third movie that they always wanted to do that they never did, where and then a lot of the elements from it reappear in this movie. Evo Shandor is the bad guy and he's trying to bring back Gozer and doing all this stuff, so like it's really cool. And if you guys ever get a chance to play it, I think they remastered it.
Oh really?
Yeah, and it's fantastic, but it's
hard.
hard.
I remember it being a very hard game.
I'm
also
easy.
not a gamer like you are, so when you say something's hard, that means it's hard.
It was like surprisingly hard, and you play as like an unknown. They just call him Rookie the entire game,
which I thought was a great idea.
It's a great idea because everybody would play as Peter.
How do you choose? Yeah, like
Peter Venkman.
I would have been Egon or Ray. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love all 4 of them, but
yeah, but it's very interesting that they finally were able to do this, but. Bill Murray has always been notoriously difficult about making a like apparently when they did the Ghostbusters video game, he recorded all of his lines from like his beach house or something like that because that's the only way he would do it. Like if he didn't actually have to go to a recording studio.
He's always been like that though. He's always been. You can never like. There's famous stories about how you can never get in touch with him. You never know if he's actually going to show up on a movie until the day he shows up. I mean, the famous story is for the first movie, Ivan Reitman was like, I honestly don't know if Bill Murray's going to show up or not. Yeah. It wasn't until he literally landed in New York that first day, and the very first shot they shot was them running in the streets of New York City in the costumes. Mm-hmm. That was the first shot of the movie.
Which is even funnier because they didn't have permits for that shot, so that's why they were running.
No, that's right. And then, that literally Bill Murray walked off a plane like an hour before that shot was done. Mm-hmm. So... But it's not just with the Ghostbusters, it's with every movie. I mean, he's always been just kind of like a very private, aloof. But listen, they got him back for this one. He has some funny moments in that last scene. And again, it's typical Bill Murray. Mm-hmm. It's typical Bill Murray. All right, because we're stretching this a little long here, and we'll get into the plot, but we're gonna try and go a little. Yeah,
we've already mentioned most of the plot.
Pretty much.
Really, the idea is Egon Spangler saw this coming apocalypse.
Sorry, real quick.
Oh,
with the plot on Wikipedia, it literally says 32 years after defeating Vigo the Carpathian. So Wikipedia is telling me that Ghostbusters 2 does exist in this canon. So okay, fine.
Yeah, I don't think that
because everything Wikipedia says, I believe
it's true. But it's I lost my train of
Sorry.
thought. Thanks a lot, man.
Egon.
Yeah, Egon had predicted that this coming apocalypse was going to happen, and he basically pinpointed the location, and none of the other Ghostbusters believed him. The opening scene is fantastic.
Oh, it's great.
This movie had a fair amount of jump scares.
It did.
We jumped more than once in this movie.
But so did the first one, really, when you think about it. Like the scene in Dana's apartment where the hands come through the chair. That's a chilling moment.
Yeah.
Lewis with dog in his apartment. So there are scares in the first one.
I'd even argue if you watch the Ghostbusters reboot, the opening scene is fantastic.
Yes,
in that haunted quote unquote museum, and he shows like how things are done, how things are fake there, but then like it gets like legitimately scary at one point, and I was like, oh okay. Then the rest of the movie not so much, but the opening scene is really good and really just like. I like how they take the Ghostbusters technology and like do other things with it, like all the traps and like the little trap car.
Yes,
that was fun.
That was good.
But
you wish you would have saw that in like the original movies.
It's a genius idea.
It is a very good idea.
I like how also the technology is still reflective of that time.
Yes.
Yeah. So we get Egon's family then eventually inherits the house when he passes away. They say a heart attack, but
so you don't really see exactly. Like, I thought he gets killed by
the demon dog,
but there's no signs of like trauma on the body. You find out. So I'm wondering, did he like? Because he has the I don't know what you call it, the technical term for like the stun gun thing, like the zapper,
the ghost zapper thing.
The ghost zapper. I'm thinking he like killed himself.
I wouldn't be surprised
because he didn't want to get possessed.
Yeah. So really the whole movie, and I mean, we can even just say this for the plot, it's them uncovering it.
Yes.
And one thing I really did enjoy about this movie, though, was we're sitting there. Normally when things like this happen and the people are uncovering things from the previous movies and the nostalgia type movies like this, we already are like, well, we know what that is. We know what this is. Blah blah blah. I
didn't get that. Yeah, I didn't. That never came across for me.
Right.
It never did. Now that you say that, that's actually a good point, because that could have been. You could have had that reaction to it, but I think the way they pulled it off, you never went going like, oh, all right, guys, we know about Evo Shandor, we know about Gozer. Let's do something different.
Mm-hmm.
God.
But I mean, really, we could still go through the plot, but I feel like we've
done most. I mean, okay, let's maybe focus on some good. I personally love the idea that the same guy who built the building in the first movie,
it's where he got the girders.
And he builds this whole town, and he builds the mine where it's basically a recreation of the top of the building in New York. I mean, I just thought that was a fantastic idea.
It was very smart the way that they and it made sense too, right?
Yeah.
Like they questioned it in the first movie. It's like, why would you use this material to do this? And then you find out it's because it does this. Well, where did you get them? They really spent some time and thought this movie through, and it shows with stuff like that. I really enjoyed the ghost trap thing that he sets up,
yes.
where when the ghosts get too high, like all 4 proton beams, like proton cannons almost, and that's why they needed to possess people so that they would destroy them. I thought it was like stuff like that was really cool. His little secret base
under his house. Excuse me. In the mine, the numbers across the top, and it's the years.
Yeah.
All the different events that happened. So like you see 1984 and then 2021. I wonder if that was
probably digitally changed, because I think this movie was supposed to
be 2020, but maybe they would have still kept it 2021. I don't know. But I thought that was funny. But that was really cool. And again, just the different the different Easter eggs,
the music
was just.
I was a little disappointed that there was a severe lack of the theme.
Yeah,
because even in the reboot, they used the original theme at the end of the opening scene.
Yes, I really wanted it to play when they are trying to chase the ghost in the Ecto.
I wanted it to play when the original Ghostbusters, because it's funny. We just saw Spider-Man No Way Home, and we've gotten like things like Avengers Endgame, where like certain those crowd pleasing moments are stopped. Like the whole world stops, so we could do our cheer and then move on. That would have been the time.
I agree with you, and I honestly, I could say maybe that's my only gripe with this movie, is I felt that the appearance of the original 3 was just very
downplayed,
lackluster and downplayed. It was just they're standing there. I was like,
they just walk up.
You could have had like a really cool, maybe they drive up and or something.
They could have done something along the lines like Gozer's like about to kill him, and you just hear hey, and then like insert quip and then blast it away.
Yeah,
from like offside.
Instead, they're just standing there going like, miss us? And I'm like, this is awesome that they're there, but I was like, that's it?
And
okay.
And then of course there's the issue where they specifically say that Egon took everything.
Yeah.
But they
still had something.
Yeah.
Did they say where they had it? Like, I can't remember.
Oh, I don't remember either.
I don't remember, but yeah, that was like my only gripe, and it's a small gripe. Don't get me wrong. It's not going to deter me at all from
what
liking or
would
not
have been really
this movie.
cool if they'd done Harry Potter and the Prisoner and Order of the Phoenix, when like the wizard fight at the end, and Sirius Black is just appears and he's like, get away from my godson, knocks him out, good. Like something like that. That's in my head.
You're right. No, that would have been something good. Yeah. All right, so we got to talk about that ending, because if you are a grown man who is a Ghostbusters fan, if you didn't shed a tear at the end of this movie, you're not human.
We all shed a tear at the end. Like I was sitting next to producer Melanie and next to you, and like we were all like,
yeah.
Oh god.
So now I was kind of you kind of know what's coming when the ghost of Egon starts playing chess with Phoebe.
Yeah.
And I had no problem with that. I thought that was fun, and Phoebe's just so like, okay. She's doing the move. The next day he puts a move. Then she comes back and she doesn't move, and he
violently throws them off.
He immediately is like, screw this. But they have some funny moments where he's like controlling the lamp, and it feels like the lamp is alive. Yeah,
catharsis with his daughter.
I immediately was like, okay, he's gonna help out at the end, but I still didn't expect how. when she's got the proton pack and she's shooting at Gozer, and all of a sudden you see the hands.
Oh yeah, it was rough.
It was very Star Wars, like Force Ghost type feel to it. And then you see him, and it's freaking Harold Ramis. And it looks just like him when he, was still alive. I was like, oh my god.
They broke their ghost rules for it, which is fine because every ghost we've seen in the Ghostbusters franchise did not look human. So I was very okay with them, But part of me, my head continuity was like, but that's not how the ghosts were done. I was like, you shut up, guy. You get out of here. Too busy crying to really qualm about it. But when he stands next to the rest of the Ghostbusters too, and they all look at him and they're like, I'm so sorry. You were right. It was a very powerful, because who was it that had a lot of problems with each other? Was it Harold Ramis and Bill Murray who didn't talk to each other for
Harold
years?
Ramis and Bill Murray
had
issues falling out after Groundhog's Day, and they didn't talk till right before his death.
Yeah.
So at least they
reconciled.
They reconciled, but he knew he was dying when they reconciled, so they didn't reconcile with a lot of time left. But that was, and again, just he doesn't talk, which I'm okay with.
I think it worked. It worked in his favor.
Worked, and just everybody had their moment with him. All three had their little words to say to him. The scene with him and the mother, his daughter, that was because you could see all the emotions in her head are just running, and then he has his ascends to heaven moment, and
because it's
I wanted to stand up and applaud. I was that moved by that scene.
It's funny because they don't ever really talk about the religious aspects of all this stuff. They mention it every once in a while, but they never really address what these ghosts are they're restless spirits, right? They just try and capture them and make their money.
Yeah.
So I thought it was a nice thing to see that these ghosts can move on and they can do that. So it's just very cathartic for everybody. Do you want to undercut it completely? Would you like to buy a Ghostbusters official Egon Spangler ghost action figure?
Did not know
We
that.
just found out about this beforehand. Well, I knew that they were doing the merchandising with Egon.
It doesn't help when you don't have a toy store anymore to go to.
Yeah. So I remember that they had released all the Ghostbusters figures because that was our first quote unquote look at it. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the biggest problems with merchandising. It spoils a lot of things.
Fair enough.
But apparently there was an Egon.
There was an Egon ghost.
Yeah. Yeah. But also speaking of merchandising, controversy with this movie, Paul Feig, that was the director of the
Paul
Reboot.
Feig.
Apparently he blasted
the fact that they didn't merchandise the female.
So apparently, no, what happened was they wanted to release a big collector's edition.
That's right, and they weren't going to include the...
and they still are not.
Which is wrong, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it is still
let the consumer worry about that. You know what? I'm sorry. I'm not going to... If I truly wanted to buy that set, I am not going to let that movie deter my decision. Yeah. One movie's not going to deter my decision on a box set.
Right.
Because I'm sorry, it's not.
Even if you don't want to watch that movie, you still have a ton of other.
Three movies will deter my decision,
and it's so cool looking.
Yeah,
yeah.
So that's just he's got a point. I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, I don't blame him either.
Listen, as I've said before, and I'll keep saying it, I had no problem with an all-female cast of that movie.
Yeah, but
that wasn't the issue for me. That was the issue for a lot of other people who just need to get their heads examined and just get out of their mom's basement. We're in a basement, but it's not your mom's.
Thank you. Yeah, I own this house. I'm an adult and everything. But you want to do Star City rating?
Oh, absolutely. You go first.
4.5.
Okay, all right.
It hit all the right notes for me, man. Like this.
I'm glad. That was good.
It is. Don't get me wrong. As far as movies go, it's not the best script. It's not the best story. But it is just as Ghostbusters fans, Ghostbusters was the movie that fueled both. I'd say mine and arguably yours. It's one of the movies that really fueled our love for movies. And it's one of those movies that both you and me definitely bonded over. Quoting it. It's up there with Spaceballs and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. It's a big one for you and me. So I mean, just to see this movie again, as we said earlier, to see this movie together, we definitely were just in Wonderland watching this movie. For the record, the real Ghostbusters is also supposedly canon to the show. Just as I'm looking at stuff. Wait, say that again? The real Ghostbusters TV show is apparently canon with the movies.
Interesting.
Yeah, they do mention Vigo and Gozer in one episode.
I remember Gozer. I don't remember Vigo.
Yeah, they do the slime. But anyway.
All right,
hit it, Sean.
All right, I'm going to agree with you. 4.5.
Wow.
I've been stewing over this since we decided we were going to do this episode, and I was like, I think I'm going to go 4, just mainly because the movie just hits every, positive moment for me. But it's very hard for me to give something a 4.5 or higher. But in talking about this movie, I just forgot how much I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
So I'm going to push it up to a 4.5. I was so happy with this movie and how it turned out. Now, honestly, it's worldwide gross movie of $185 million. I'm trying to find the budget for this movie to see how well of a money it made, but
the
I can't seem to
budget was
find.
$75 million.
All right, so it more than doubled its budget, but I wouldn't call this a
Box office bomb.
box office,
blockbuster.
Blockbuster. It's not obviously doing Spider-Man numbers.
That was also a product of COVID and movie theaters at the time.
But I mean, Spider-Man only came out a couple weeks later. I just think I feel like this movie was directed towards a set fan base, and hope all of them went to see it, and I hope all of them enjoyed it because man, did we.
I really like how they're still trying to push this Ghost Corp. So basically, when the movie starts, one of the production logos is Ghost Corp.
Oh, I remember that.
They started that with, what's it called? The Reboot.
Oh, yeah. Okay. But in terms of, do you want to see a sequel to this?
I would like to see a sequel. I'm not sure how much of this cast I would like to. Like, it depends on what they want to do with it.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, if the kids are going to be the Ghostbusters, which you would think, I mean, to me, I would see a movie with more of these kid characters.
I think I would be okay with it.
So I'm interested if they do get off the ground with a sequel. Now, will Jason Reitman be involved in that? My gut says probably not.
This was his love letter to his dad.
Absolutely. And fun fact, he's the kid in the beginning of Ghostbusters 2.
Yes, I did.
You did know that?
I did know that.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah.
Alrighty,
come
sir.
at me like that.
I wasn't coming at you. I was just trying to see if you had some fun facts in you.
I will allow that.
I appreciate it. So, this has been fun. Do we want to do Fan Feedback Friday?
I do not have one.
You don't? You posted one. Oh,
yeah.
All right.
No, we had some technical issues on that one.
Technical issues. Love that. Love it. But
sorry.
That's all right. That's all right.
I try. You can find us on Facebook.
You can find us on Facebook. You want to tell everyone else where they can find
Adventures. You can find our website, themisfitfaction.com. There you find links to all of our different podcasts, shows, articles, all that stuff. You can find our Instagram, which is the Misfit Faction. You can also find Bibliophiles Assemble over there, which is producer Melanie's book page, which is doing really well this week, especially. She's been having a lot of fun with it. And then you can also find us on YouTube, the Misfit Faction Media Network. There you'll find a video of me and Sean talking to the one, the only Larry Hankin.
Ooh, I forgot about that.
I uploaded that exclusively to YouTube because the interview was so much fun to see. And then
we did have a good time with that interview.
Yeah, so the audio is up on MF Uncensored, but also you can find it on our.
Nice.
I don't tell Sean when I do things.
No, you don't.
I'm sorry.
You don't.
I'm sorry.
It's not your fault.
I know.
I need to listen more.
And then and Twitter, Misfit Faction.
The Twitter.
The Twitter. That's it.
Alrighty. Well, I would like to say what we have planned for next week, but I don't think we know that yet.
I was thinking probably the Matrix.
Probably. Possibly. Maybe.
I don't know.
Who knows?
That's how we figured out Ghostbusters. We just kind of said
I've been pestering you for over a month to do a Ghostbusters episode, just saying.
We'll see you guys next week.
As always, this has been fun. I am Sean.
I'm afraid. I'm Paul.
Producer Melanie's right there. She'll protect you.
You just yelled at me in front of all these podcast listeners.
Okay, I'm sorry to the 5 people that are listening to us right now. Sorry.
He'll actually text me about that.
All right, everybody. Have a good one, and we'll talk to you next time.
Bye.